Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Wartrain here. If you're new, do me a favor, please subscribe and click that notification bell down below so you can be notified of all my new videos. And with that said, guys, today's video is about the state of gaming. Let's talk about everything gaming, games, consoles, collectibles, all that good stuff, new tech, old tech. Just love all that stuff. Retro and new stuff, that is where it's at. So let's check it out, and welcome to my channel, Wartrains Wins. Hey guys, welcome to the channel, and bear with me on this video. I've never did a video quite like this, so do me a favor, stay with it, check this out.
The history of Hyrule is also the history of Calamity Ganon, a primal evil that has endured over the ages. This evil has been turned back time and time again by a warrior wielding the soul of a hero and a princess who carries the blood of...
Okay, so I'm going to stop right there, guys. So bear with me here. Hopefully you'll stick around to the end of the video so I can make my point here. I have a theory with the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, and it has to do with this. And I've seen a bunch of people talking about some of this stuff, but they never took it to where I thought they were going to go, which is where I've been kind of envisioning this stuff going. So since nobody has talked about this, or I haven't heard anybody talk about it yet, I figured I'm going to talk about it because it's cool as hell. And this is how I hope Breath of the Wild 2 actually wraps up and ties the first Breath of the Wild game into it. Now, we've all seen this before, and this is Impa's telling Link what happened 10,000 years ago, okay? So we've all seen this plenty of times. And you got Zelda there using her sealing power, and you see the Triforce underneath. And you see Link there with the Master Sword and his hand lit up yellow. In my eyes, that's representative also of his Triforce of Courage. And they're fighting the darkness, which is Calamity Ganon himself, with the Triforce of Power. Now, you don't hear anything about the Triforce in Breath of the Wild, which is weird because it's always been one of the main staples of any Zelda game. And you do see it, and you do see it at the end of the Breath of the Wild when Zelda's using her sealing power, just like them showing it right there. Now, we've all seen this, and we don't know much about the Zelda and the Link from 10,000 years ago, okay? Now, bear with me. This is where it gets weird. So I'm going to jump back to the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, so hang with me 1 second and we'll get there. Okay, so here we got the Breath of the Wild 2 trailer started up. You got this little stuff that looks like some Gerudo language. Definitely, I believe it's words. You got Ganon there. That's definitely Ganon. He's got the trident, the whole nine, the Gerudo symbols. We've all seen this stuff, but we're gonna check out this blue stuff that Link's hand is touched with. So we're gonna go through this whole trailer. It's pretty short. So we got Ganon there, we got the Gerudo symbol, and we got this weird hand. So cool. Okay, so we're gonna stop it there because this is pretty much the end. So I've seen people talk about this, and yes, this is a definite thing here. So you got Hyrule Field here, you got Hyrule Castle in the background, and this is the exact same thing that we have in Breath of the Wild, but we don't see the Sheikah Towers, we don't see the shrines, we don't see the divine beasts, you don't see none of that. All you see is the castle, and then there's smoke, and it rises up. And that's probably at the same point where possibly the castle's raising up and they are possibly falling. Now, why would this be different? time travel. People have talked about time travel. And yeah, that would make a whole lot of sense. And I am definitely on board with the time travel aspect. But I've never seen anybody take it to this part. Now, let's go back to where Link is first touches this thing. Oh, I passed it. Hold on. Okay, so this is where Link first encounters this greenish blue stuff. And you see it goes in his right arm, the arm that wields the Master Sword. And we don't know if it's actually hurting him or what it's doing to him, but it's definitely doing something to him. We can all agree that. Okay, so now let's jump a little bit further down. So we can see here, that hand is grabbing Zelda. And, where was it? And right before that, it's Link is reaching up and grabbing it. I think there's a better... Yeah, alright, that was Link. So maybe it was just Link's hand the whole time, and Link is grabbing Zelda. So they're probably all falling, and Link is reaching down to grab Zelda, and Link is reaching up for that hand. Now that hand grabs them. Now Link has now touched this thing twice, and Zelda has been in contact with it too through Link, but he has gotten the full brunt of this. And I'm not sure if that was Zelda's hand at any point, but I know that they actually want to make the next game a multiplayer game. Now, I'm thinking in this game you're going to be able to do use Zelda or Link or both. I think one of them's going to be controlled with AI if you're doing a single player run through. And if not, you can do co-op or online with, another person, basically co-op, and you'll be able to control these characters and go through the game that way. But you'll almost need to be somewhat together the whole time. That's where AI would come to control the other character. But I don't know if they'd implement that through the whole game, but they may, because I know they've been talking about wanting to do this. But it goes back to that hand touching them. Okay, now let's go back to the other video. So bear with me here a second. I'm going to tie this all together. Okay, so now I'm back at the cutscene where you're seeing Link and Zelda both together fighting Calamity Ganon. And I showed you Link touching the blue stuff and also him holding Zelda. And I showed you the Hyrule field looking fresh with none of the Sheikah shrines or the towers. And the castle looked like it wasn't damaged like it does in Breath of the Wild. Well, what if with that blue stuff they do time travel? Now bear with me here. What if either it powers up the Master Sword all the way that now Link can actually use the Master Sword like he did in Ocarina of Time to drive it back down into back down into the stone or whatever to be able to time travel just like Ocarina of Time. And just like that game, he could go back and forth with the Master Sword being totally powered up. Because it's weird how in the game your Master Sword is weakened severely through the game. What if you burned so much power and it just needed to be powered up with possibly, maybe that blue hand is representative of Fi, whatever you want to call her. What if somehow she had somewhat part of her like power or whatever had left the sword? What if you get her back somewhat through that blue stuff? Or what if that blue hand somehow through Link using, will of the hero of courage, moves them back in time to a point further back, which would be the 10,000 years ago, where they actually have a chance to go against Ganon before he turns into that corpse. Maybe that. So this is a little confusing. So, what if it was cyclical? What if this 10,000 years ago Link and Zelda here is actually always was the Breath of the Wild 1 Link and Zelda? What if they always went back in time and were these characters all from the beginning? And what if the whole time they were hearing about their story that 10,000 years later? But what if this is something that happened more than once, this cycle? And what if, after it has repeated a couple times, what if now something had changed, which makes them able to go back and actually fight Ganon and defeat him 100%? Because what if just like all this stuff took place like it did? They fought him 10,000 years ago. They used the Guardians, the Champions, and the Divine Beasts, okay? And then that was all well and good. They sealed him, and they knew he would come back. So, because they maybe just contained him, let's say. And okay, so now jump 10,000 years in the future, which was Breath of the Wild. So they fight him. Now Ganon already knows because he was only sealed, so he still has memory of when they battled 10,000 years ago and knows the whole trick with these guardians and all this stuff, divine beasts. So he knows to take control of them. And he does right away and totally wipes them out. Kills the champions, and for the most part almost kills Link, to the point where they have to put him in a resurrection chamber, and then Zelda finally finds her power and seals him. So then fast forward, Breath of the Wild, Link wakes up, goes through the game, which you played, hopefully you played, where he beats all the Blight Ganons, frees the champions so that they're able to battle one last time with Link against Calamity Ganon. And they do that. You take out Calamity Ganon, but is actually just still like just sealing him again, not actually defeating him. So, but maybe this time it was all that stuff was like Phantom Ganons, all these blights, and because that might have been something different that never was able to happen the first time. So he created these blights almost like phantoms, and you get rid of them. And maybe Calamity Ganon was actually a major blight as well, and you took him out. But the source was never actually finished, which is the corpse. Maybe the corpse was Ganondorf from 10,000 years ago, maybe something lost to history and that they didn't know about yet, but maybe they find out. Maybe Impa and some other people actually knew more to the story than they told. Maybe they always knew that they were the hero of the wild was the one that was from 10,000 years ago, and knew that Zelda was from the Zelda from 10,000 years ago, fighting and sealing Calamity Ganon. Maybe they always knew this, and maybe in Breath of the Wild 2, in the beginning, you find out more about this stuff, and maybe then that's why you go looking for Ganondorf, which maybe as well to that, you find out that there is some malice still kind of out and about, and that's why Zelda was looking into all this stuff, because she's definitely always looking to find stuff out, very curious, and she holds the Triforce of Wisdom, so she's super smart. So maybe she sees this stuff, and then she looks into it more, finds out she didn't get the whole truth, finds out more of the truth, and then goes looking for the source. And that's why they were down there, seeing the writing on the wall, because she lights the torch on the wall, and they look surprised. And I think well, she looks surprised, and I think she looks surprised because that's when she sees the hieroglyphics on the wall, with where she sees Ganon on there on his horse and all that. And then later, more exploring, they actually find the corpse with the blue swirl swirling around, which was some kind of a seal. And well, maybe it's a little more than a seal, and some kind of a magic power that may have some kind of key to the time travel, and something tying in maybe with the Master Sword. And maybe by Link touching it and also touching Zelda, they're both able to both go back in time and try to take out Ganon completely. And maybe back then, the Calamity Ganon was always just a manifestation of Ganon, like a phantom or a puppet. And maybe they always had to fight Ganon or Ganondorf himself to be able to finish the fight. So, like I said, maybe this thing happened in a cycle of always getting to this point in time just to go back and try again. And then things not working out right, but then they go back again, try it again, but things change, they don't go right, but they do seal them away. But maybe this time they go back knowing more, or maybe have something they didn't have before, go back and fight him, and are able to end the cycle of this time loop and actually kill Ganondorf, Ganon, Calamity Ganon, whatever you want to call him, but to finish this stuff off. I think that would be really cool, and it would be awesome to tie Breath of the Wild, the first one, in like this, because now you would give that game a huger story, because a lot of people were very upset that they weren't getting enough story from it. I mean, maybe in this game you get a whole bunch of dungeons. They show a dungeon underground. Maybe there's a bunch of dungeons, and that you have to actually get things from inside these dungeons that are going to help you actually finish off Ganon. So that would be a way to incorporate the first game with the new game, and it would make the first game actually, you'd be able to look at it through a new set of eyes, and you'd almost analyze all this different stuff. Maybe certain things had to happen along the way to put you on this path for these things to happen. And even stuff from in Breath of the Wild, maybe there's things that happen in Breath of the Wild 2 in the past that actually you can see how they affected the future to affect your character to ultimately wind up going back in the past. This would be so awesome, and I don't know if Nintendo could pull this off. Maybe, if there's anybody, I guess, that could, it'd be Nintendo. This would be so epic and be like the ultimate Legend of Zelda adventure. To tie these games up like this in some kind of cyclical, because they're always cyclical anyway, and they have had time travel stuff, and Ocarina of Time did do this, and that game to a lot of people was a masterpiece and one of the best games ever made. Well, I believe that they could take Breath of the Wild and put it to that status. If it isn't already, in my eyes it is, but for people that don't believe it is, because it lacked a lot of story elements, which it had a lot of story elements, but you had to go find them in the game. But maybe this one will have more cutscenes and just more stuff to add to the whole lore and the story. Maybe this is the game that people always wanted, but they had to get Breath of the Wild out first for it to all make sense. Hopefully somebody will take what I've talked about in this video and take it somewhere further. That would be so cool, because I've heard so many things, and a lot of these things do make sense. The time travel element, the element of having, the Sheikah Blue representative of the Triforce of Wisdom, and this blue-green swirl, greenish swirl thing representing the Triforce of Courage for Link, and the purple Malice, or red, whatever you want to call it, representing a Triforce of Power of Ganon. So, I mean, all this stuff would kind of tie together with that, and it would almost tie elements of different games like Ocarina of Time, maybe with the Master Sword going back into the pedestal, using that element again for time travel, maybe being powered up with the blue stuff, or maybe the blue stuff just stops time and is just the will of the hero of courage, willing this stuff to happen. It just happens and reverts them to an earlier time. I mean, so many things they could do here that would be so cool, but I hope they do use this time travel element as a way to continue the story, because I think that would be awesome, because you do not hear much about the hero from 10,000 years ago and Zelda. Their story is pretty much lost. So what if the whole time they were planning to have the Link and Zelda from Breath of the Wild 1 be that Zelda and Link from 10,000 years ago? That would be, in my opinion, awesome. But what do you guys think? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully somebody will take this info and make a much better video than I could do with these ideas. And hopefully Nintendo will do something like this. But this game's going to be awesome regardless. But that's the video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do me a favor. Give me a like if you enjoyed it, or a dislike if you didn't. And subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell down below, and check out some of my other videos, guys. Hopefully you'll find something else that you like, and maybe check them out. So that's the video, guys. I'm the War Train, and I'm out. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.